Look, detectives combing through the hood looking for a corpse. Draco hitting. I don't think your body can endure the force. I whipped the fish up with a fucking hanger or a fork. Told that bitch, go ahead, sniff what you want. There's plenty more to snort. I had an outstanding warrant for a short. Turned myself in, rocking Louis and all my jewelry. I wore the court.
Ladies and gentlemen, hard to kill. We got my buddy Cody Hall with us tonight. Cody, how we doing? How we feeling?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
So just for the listeners, dude, I mean, we're both savages. Throw out the resume a little bit. Tell us what you did.
Yeah, no, brother. I've been around for a while. So from the Southeast originally, 12 years in the Marine Corps. I was, for all intents and purposes, probably the most boring recon guy you've ever met. Unfortunately, same circle recently, right? I ran a lot of
Yep.
really cool dudes.
Yep.
I actually lat moved into recon. A lot of people don't know that. No one wants to ever admit they were an ammo tech, but I was an
Really?
ammo tech, bro.
Throw
BB
it out
counter,
there,
right?
bro. Let them see it.
One, two, three. And I was like, I felt like I was gypped. I was
Yeah.
like, what the hell is this? So
Did you go in the Marine Corps with the same like I don't know, would you call it an adventure mindset? I mean, we hear like something's going on. We want to get involved to a certain degree, do we not? I mean, was that the main goal for you, or do you have like a
so
mentor that like pushed you that route? Which
Yeah, so really cool. I mean, funny enough is we'll get to it, I'm sure, at some point. I actually just completed my application to the Kennedy School of Government for Harvard.
damn,
So we'll get
okay.
we'll get there in a little bit, but
Yeah.
not as cool as Harvard, but every men in my family have fought in every war and conflict in the United States, all of United States history. So
Damn, okay.
my grandfathers were in, not only just D-Day, but in the
Oh
Pacific
shit.
Islands. I got family all the way back to the Civil War, right? And then
Damn.
beyond, right? So military is kind of my only option. And so I grew up really high class trailer trash. And so for me, so for me, it was really my only option. I could have wrestled. I could have wrestled,
Okay.
but funny enough, I went to wrestling camp and to go into college at App State, and they hazed me, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not getting hazed. I'm not
I
gonna
mean,
get hazed. I'm gonna
what are
join
we
the
talking
Marine
about here?
Corps."
Yes, yes, perfect.
So I joined it with the intentions to get education, and then I'm just a competitive person, and
Gotcha.
so we all heard about the elusive like recon guys, and I was like, oh, I want to be those dudes,
Of course,
right?
of course, of
And
course.
so got into that life, really loved it. The biggest thing of all my career that anything that whether it's the adventures, whether it's the exposure to the world that it gave us, for me, it gave me this unbeatable drive. It's just something about the recon community, right? These guys, it's just like, yeah, I remember the first day I got there. I'm not going to mention his name because he's special and he's somewhere into the dark cloud somewhere.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this dude was looked at me. I was like, he's like, congratulations, you've done nothing. Like you've done nothing. You're like you slick back hair, blonde, right? You're all cool, too cool for school. And then this dude's like, you're worthless. And I was like, damn. And so that's the mentality I've carried my entire life. Like I've
Gotcha.
always been worthless. Like I've done, I worked for really cool companies, Apple's, Amazon's. I've started two companies that I've
Hold,
sold
hold
and
on, just
exited.
go down real quick. Break that down, dude. Like the worthless thing. Are you referring to like that drive, that never accepting defeat? Like you just always bounding to the next goal. Is that
You're
what you're
never good enough, right?
Gotcha.
And the guy who I was talking about, I'll say his name, first name Chris, right? I was talking about Chris. This is like J-Tech, sniper. This dude's like
The works.
man, bear, shark, right?
Gotcha.
Right, man, bear, shark, right? And he's just like, you know, probably killed more people than COVID,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And so, like this guy, telling me sitting here, like, I see him how he went through everything, just like head for it. Like, doesn't matter how good he was at something. He's like, man, I could have done this, I could have done this, I could have done
Yeah.
this. And that's kind of the mentality I have now. It's just like, CO companies, right? And then I'll sit there and I'll criticize myself all day, like, oh, I'm like, cool. Well, you're still that trailer park kid. Like you're still that trailer. Like, doesn't matter how good you get. And I was just explaining to my team this past week because I'm going through and doing an operational revamping of our processes for, maximizing efficiency, right?
Yep, yep.
Love, Six Sigma, right? All about process efficiency. And so for me, um, going through life is a lot like always improving my own processes. And so I'm looking at what I'm doing, how I can do it better. And it just comes back to the fact that I grew up poor in a trailer park, and I was like, dude, I hate,
That puts a
watching.
fire in the stomach for sure.
Yeah, you're going up here and you're like, man, watching my parents put $5 in for gas. You're like,
Yeah, exactly.
fuck that. No,
Yep.
can I curse on this? I don't know.
Of
So
course, dude. Let it roll.
it just so I was like, fuck that. And I just like you go into, and I didn't have that drive. Like I went to the Marine Corps to get college education, right? And I'll admit it, right? I remember watching 9/11 happen, right? I was there when I was watching, on the TV, and I had no clue what was happening in school. Like I was there,
Real quick, how old were you?
fifth grade, fifth
Yep,
grade.
same
I was in
here, same here.
fifth.
And it was,
I
dude,
was in.
it really what I really didn't get what was happening in the moment. We were young, and something like that is just so not awesome in a positive way, but it's just a huge event that, at that age you really can't appreciate. I mean, this is we're getting attacked according to, everybody. We're getting attacked by, a foreign adversary, and where's your head at right there, dude? Is it instantly go over, fight, and take care of it, or is it just, tell
Yeah.
me?
Well, you know. I I'm a fighter. Like, I'm the type of person who always will run into conflict. And so I did personality test. I did some really interesting stuff for Purdue and as a part of their, lab rat one day. I have a tendency to run into conflict. And then when I'm in arguments, I elevate them to a conflict level because that's where I feel comfortable. Like I know I can manage conflict and I know
You're
most people
comfortable,
can't.
comfortable in
And
chaos.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when it happened, I didn't know what was happening. Like all I remember is I was in Georgia and fifth grade in math class, and there were jets flying over because we were next to an army base, and like things were going crazy. Really didn't know what the world was going on. And it wasn't too long, after that, within a couple of years, my older brother was off to the races, right? And so like, he was the first one to go off and be, a Marine to my all, by the way, me and my three brothers, all Marines,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
And so, I was going to do the Navy, but I was like, dude, Thanksgiving's gonna suck, right? I'm gonna get picked on all
Facts.
the time,
Facts.
right?
Fuck that.
So I was right. So I couldn't do that. But it just, you know, for everything the Marine Corps is, and for everything that I could say about the Marine Corps that probably could be negative, it gave me this fire to want to, no matter what I was going through. I suffer from what I refer to as get the fuck over it syndrome, right? Like
That's
you
rare. That's
wake up
rare
this
nowadays,
morning,
bro. That's rare nowadays.
it is. Well, we always want to feel bad for ourselves. This is the
Exactly.
world we
That's
live in.
that's that's the big
Victim,
thing nowadays, right? Yeah. Well,
the
so dude,
victim
honestly, I,
mode.
I get the vibe from you. Like, I mean, you hear often that Marines have trouble transitioning, when they get out of the Marine Corps. It seems like you took that, drive that pushes you through, like, the recon mindset, the never give up, and you applied it directly to what you're doing in, the private sector to a certain degree, and it looks like it's working for you, man.
I'm a Marine that got out because I wanted to get married, right? There's a woman, so there's a girl, right?
Always, always, always.
There's a woman. That lasted about as long as it took me to finish college, right? It's so turns out if you're a veteran Marine and you go to college, you're pretty popular.
Yeah,
So
facts.
just for the
Killing
record,
it.
probably not good for a young married guy. So I made mistakes, and so yeah, I went out to the world and like I was like, oh, let's do this thing, right? And and then life hits you. But I really can point to one thing. I worked for Apple, right? And when I went into Apple, you know, like Marines, right? Yeah, I yelled at somebody one
Oh, here we
day.
go.
I was like, I lost my shit on somebody one day, and then I had someone talk to me like, hey, listen, you can't be a Marine with everybody, right? You just can't go around, ripping people's heads off. And I was
Yeah.
like, word, okay, how do I do this?
Oh,
And so they sent me to this training, like empathy
go
training.
to
I shit you not.
training.
They're like, we're gonna convert this guy,
Oh, that's
and
funny.
it made me into this ability to like it softened me on the surface in a way that's good for the world, right? It put me in position to be accepting of kind of other people that are very, listen, I love the recon community, right? And Recon Sniper Foundation, really cool organization. I donate to them, and they do amazing things for people. And they always post up every year, like the rules, operator rules.
Oh
And one
yeah.
of the rules is have a diverse circle. And while I love that rule, I think it's really great. Like, I mean, really great. I don't think a lot of people in the community actually live by it.
That is so true.
And
So
I
true.
think I think a lot of them are full of shit because also shout out to my people over Recon Sniper Foundation. However, the photo you post every year, there's like a bunch of white Marines in a photo wearing all uniform stuff. So there's like zero diversity into it.
Diversity,
I
baby.
feel right. And that's not even it's not about like what you wear and everything, but it's more so about like, hey, listen, I went out to this world and like I didn't have a gay friend, right? Like all my friends were these white dudes from Texas or these Mexicans from
Yeah,
SoCal,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. And then every recon buddy has that one black friend, right?
Of
And
course,
so
always.
right, who just happened to make it through the course. And you're like sitting there and then you go to Apple, dude, and like these people are different. And it forced me to either not get fired or become part of this outside world. And so I learned to really like I have a switch. And it takes me a lot to get to that switch. And if I do hit my switch, like I'm gonna lose my shit.
Forget
Like
about it.
it's hard to bring me back down. Let's say, but it put me in a position to really soften my exterior, which
Okay. Of
allowed us not to get skylined, right? And I think
course.
that's hard for us as veteran because we can't really fit in because we feel so different, and you're always going to feel different. You're
Yeah.
always going to be
Always, right?
an outside, but we have to figure out how to be a
Live with
chameleon
it.
and
Yep.
almost
Of course.
join the rest of the world.
Yep.
Or you can join a community that is very military or paramilitary.
Yeah.
If you want to join with the ABCs or a cop, things like that.
Go for it.
Unfortunately, that wasn't me. That wasn't
Yeah,
me.
no, here. Same here. Same here. I get it. Well, I mean, so let's talk about a little bit of entrepreneurship, dude, because you're doing your thing. Talk about we talked earlier
Mhm.
about telehealth. Tell us about it.
Yeah, dude. So I'm on my third company. I've been able to do two exits. I was a part of a Bambi HR, which was a technology HR startup. I was one of the preliminary employees there, early stage employees, as we refer to it. And then I helped as a founding person of a healthcare company called Titanium Healthcare. Hopefully, they're selling next year. Come on, baby, pay me. Pay me. I want to get paid. And then did this telehelping organization called Activa. I'm actually here in Napa, who me and my buddy who started that, we started a hedge fund together. We'll get to that because I'm never doing more than three things, any less than three things at one time. Um, and then telehelping, which would be like my main 9 to 5. And I'm the founder and CEO of it's a virtual assistant staffing organization. We work with lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, and then we kind of do marketing for everybody,
Okay.
real estate, sales, business development. And essentially what we do is we take the best of Mexico, right? And they're educated and their experience, and we take that and we apply it at a low cost to US companies.
Okay.
And so, our bread and butter, 80% of our business is one person companies, your single practice lawyers, your single accountants. And what we do is we help them economies of scale, right? You can only do so much as a person.
Of course.
And if you're a one person shop, you are going to get one day to the point where you're either going to be doing the work or trying to grow the business, but you can't ever do both.
Yep.
What we help people do is we either help do the business or we help them grow while they're focusing on whichever one they primarily do best.
Gotcha.
With lawyers, accountants, and fin advisors, oftentimes it's the things they require a license for, like real estate agents as well. And then they all that stuff around them that they just have to do, they outsource that to virtual assistants. So it
Gotcha.
helps you build a company. I myself represent six virtual assistants. I have six virtual assistants that answer my emails, do everything on my LinkedIn, everything on my company pages. I have people who actually go to meetings for me. I have an executive project manager that goes to the meetings I don't want to go to.
Really?
And so, yeah, I call her my human intelligence. She'll take notes for me. And then she has decision based authority for me as well, right? And so
Okay.
she knows generally what I want and she'll execute on those and I don't even have to, right? And it's also that I can run this company, which, where we just, like I told you in our pre-meeting, like, we were chatting up before we decided to just jumped on and go raw here. We grew 100% this year,
That's awesome.
right? Like, And the crazy thing is I don't, ever tell anybody this because I don't really do anything except work, right? Um, I don't actually pay myself for my company, so I don't collect a salary because like, I own the company. Like I'm
Really?
100% owner. Like, why take money out of it?
No,
Again,
I hear
I
you.
will, if it's a tax advantage,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And
yeah.
I'm not going to go on the recording with anything I do with taxes, but there are some things that I definitely do to limit my exposure.
I mean, does it do you get into the 501(c)(3) at all, dude? Does that benefit you at that, position to transition to something like that, or
Uh,
no?
so I'm a dual citizen, and so in Mexico, so I wife's Mexican, kids
That's
are
cool.
Mexican, lived in Mexico. Pretty much, I'm in Napa right now because we're getting ready to have another baby, and so we came
Congrats.
back to the States. There was one too many people hanging from overpasses. Mexico's getting a little crazy right now, so we're like, let's take a 9 month break. Like I'm good with like one or two people from an overpass per week, but
Damn.
these Venezuelan, Salvadoran, and
Really? It's
Guatemalan
like
gang,
that. It's like that,
yeah,
huh?
they're moving in hard, dude. Three states in Mexico right now are controlled by exterior cartels, which is
Really?
unprecedented. And so we're like, fuck that, going back to the states for a while. And so we're up here. Started a hedge fund with my buddy, which is my other job that's full time. And so we trade and sell premiums on the stock market every day.
Okay.
So when people buy options, what we do is we're the ones selling them to them. And
Gotcha.
so we go through there. I do our long range strategy, which is our 1 week to 1 month strategy. And then
Okay.
I work with our hedges. He works with like daily, is it what we call 0 day to expiration trades and our future trades. And so we manage the fund that way.
Gotcha. Do you ever
Yeah.
see like I mean do you see veterans in that space at all? Do you ever work like do you transition like yeah, I figured.
Yeah, bro. My mentor is a veteran, retired Air Force guy, right? And so I don't know what he did in the Air Force, but he got out, used his GI Bill to go to a school to teach him about stock trading, and now
Really?
I mean, dude, he's worth like 50 million,
Oh
right?
my
And
God. For him.
what we use his he does a lot of really good data that really kind of tells us where the market could go. Right? You don't know where the hell it's going to go, but it gives you an idea where the invisible winds are that are going to move it. And we use his limits and stuff every day to make our decisions. But
Gotcha.
veteran nonetheless.
Does that I mean does the presidency play a big role in that, dude, for like trends in your market? I mean, transitioning to another president, so much has
Bro,
changed, right?
bro, I made 1,000% on my trades because of my
Really?
boy JD. Yeah.
Really?
Everyone's like, oh, the market's gonna go down, the market's gonna go down, the market's gonna go down. I'm like, mm. And so I'm like, okay, so if the market does go down, we'll put in some hedges for this, right? We're gonna plan for this, right? But what if it goes up? And it did, it went up 250 points,
Damn.
right? 250 points that week. And yeah, dude, I probably had, geez, I don't want to put dollar amounts out there,
No,
but
but I hear you.
thousand
You did
percent,
well.
right?
Yeah, I get you.
Right. It was ludicrous. The funny thing is, and this is really good, just because we're talking about diverse circles, right?
Yep, yep.
My trading partner, the hedge fund, he is like Kamala to the core, right?
Really?
Kamala to
Ooh,
like
that's
move out of
tough.
the
That's
country
tough.
because she lost, right? I may be moving to
Hardcore.
Spain next year, right? Because I'm like, all right, we're gonna move back to Mexico, or we're gonna move back to Spain, or we're gonna move to Spain. And so I may spend some time next year with the family in Spain because
Well, no,
he's
so let me slow
moving
you down real
there.
quick, dude. Just because being able to be like international like that is such a
Oh,
cool thing, dude. Traveling and
yeah.
living outside of the United States is so like it's not talked about enough, and it really changes your mindset to a certain degree, dude. Because and being in the United States, you're pampered to a certain degree. Things are out of your eyesight. You don't see
Yeah.
all of life. But when you go to Mexico, when you transition, we go over to like Europe or Spain or something like that, you really see a diverse chain of events that you really don't see in the United States, dude. So it opens your eyes to things significantly, I believe.
It's crazy. You have my buddy Matt on here from Invictus
Yep.
International. We just went to
Yep.
the ball with
Great
him.
dude. Great dude.
Oh yeah, I love Matt. One of those entrepreneurs that I actually relate to because he did a lot of the same things, getting out and starting companies. Also, like really cool dad figure, right?
Of course.
Someone who, like, in spite of everything he's experienced, right? He's like, oh. he's a great dad. I'm like, dude, if he can do it, I can do it,
Yeah.
right? And so he inspires me. But the I Vegas is my home
Yep.
in quotes, right? And so, but where my house is in Vegas, like Matt says, it's more dangerous there than it is in
For real?
Mexico, right? Yeah, bro. I mean, we've had some situations in Mexico, right? I've been attempted to be extorted. I've had some things that go down that I wouldn't necessarily mention on here. But dude,
Of
I've
course.
seen straight
Of
up
course.
gunfights in
Really?
Mexico, bro. I was walking with my kid one day in this little pueblo I lived, and we're just like strolling, dude. Beautiful 72-degree weather, and it just so happened that cops were chasing a resupply vehicle for the
Oh,
cartel with
oh,
200K of drugs and cash and guns, and they crashed in this intersection, and they're like, "We're not going down." Dude, freaking whopped out the choppers and just started blasting full auto, right?
damn.
I'm like, dude,
Like
bro.
that.
I mean, bro, let me give you just freaking, you know what I'm talking about here, dude. The rate of fire was so high that the
Dang.
dust was raising off
You got that
the
smell?
little
Yeah.
pueblo.
I
Oh,
hear you.
dude,
Yep.
me and my homeboy, took a dip into the corner, and then like 5 minutes later, like it never happened.
Really?
Car's gone, shell's gone, traffic's back through. You just going on through your everyday life. And that's international. Like there's but that wouldn't happen in Spain, but
Of
in
course. In
Mexico,
Mexico,
you know,
they're just, it seems like they're just used to that, dude. That's just their, it's normal to them, which is crazy, dude.
yeah. My wife looked to Joe. Like we had some stuff go down, which expedited our exit from Mexico. But my wife's just like, hey, this is Mexico. It happens. These things happen. I'm like, yeah, but not really big on risking family and
Of
child
course. Of course.
for
Of course.
anything, for any amount
Yeah,
of
of
money.
course.
And so, but she grew up in that part. She grew up in a really famous narco town, right? And like the type of place where you shouldn't see a $500,000 Ferrari, but they're everywhere, right? And so, and
But
like,
bro, dude, we see the movies. We see the movies, and is it really like in your face like that over there? Like, I mean, they're
it
aggressively,
ca-
yeah.
it can be. I I've gotten so I've been exposed to it so much time. Being in the call center world, it comes to you, right? What's better than a multi-million-dollar organization that sends thousands
Yeah,
and thousands of
exactly.
dollars every month?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, dude, like my limit to send cash back and forth to Mexico is basically so high that it's limitless, right? And so there are a lot of organizations who are in the call center world. They are working with these
Cartel.
organizations
Yeah,
because
of course.
they're great ways to push money. But my wife in her town, like they're just everywhere. Listen, if you see a 12-year-old on like a KTM or Ducati, like supermoto or dirt bike, he's running. He's running. He's moving things
Of
all
course.
over the place.
What else is he doing?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. But you're right. It gives you a crazy exposure.
And what does
Like I
that make?
said,
What does
my
that make you think coming back to the United States, dude? Because you see what's going on here, and how does what? I mean, it's got to change your perspective on things significantly. Because
uh,
I mean, we talked earlier, people are just in their feelings. They don't. It seems like there's no backbone nowadays, dude. Because the way I grew up, if if you get hit down and you're at rock bottom, you use it as motivation, and you just keep pushing. And it seems like that's
yeah.
just kind of taken out of America to a certain degree, dude. And I don't know. It leaves kind of a bad taste in your mouth, and I know you can see that coming from
Mm.
Mexico. I mean, it's night and day, right?
Well, one thing I'll always and forever say, United States is the best country in the world.
Of
It's
course,
the
of course, of course.
best representation of freedom and diversity, and no one can tell us if we're doing a bad job because no one has ever done or is doing what we do, right? And so, even in Mexico, I'll tell you all the time because I hated when I heard this in Mexico from other people who are from the United States. Oh, I had to living the American dream is making enough money to move to Mexico, and it is the most tone deaf bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Like one thing that no, most of Mexico will never know what retirement is. So
X,
shut up.
X.
Secondly, right, the opportunity you had the United States that gave you the ability to sell everything you own and then relocate to Mexico where you have a 1 to 50, right, ability to, multiply your money. Like you owe it all to the United States. And so I love like there's just, something about driving on a flat road in the United States and not hitting one damn pothole, right? That you just love about America, right? Or walking into I've never been so excited to go into a Walmart. And first time I came back after 2 years, you walk into a mart, you can buy everything you need in one trip,
Facts,
right?
facts,
It's
facts.
Mexico, it's 5 stores, right?
Yep,
And
I hear
it's
you.
an all day event. And so, it's the same thing. Like my buddy wants to move to Spain and he's like, oh, you should come. I'm like, oh, why not, dude? Let's do it. Like I work remote. Everything we do is remote. My kids are young enough where they're not like locked into a friend group, right? And I don't even really
Gotcha.
like people that much. And so,
Facts.
and so like, sure, I'll go with you. But he's doing it because he's leaving. The president didn't win that he wanted to win, and and he knows how I feel. So
Damn.
even if he watches this, he knows I call him out on his shit all the time, right?
You at
Um,
least let him hear the other side of it, dude? Because it seems like they're so tone deaf
yeah,
to just even
yeah.
hearing. You get what I mean?
He's open to it. Like, he hears it. And, the biggest thing is, for him, he's like, all right, well, I have no control what's going on, right? I don't support this direction, which I'm okay with. But, the thing I tell him is like, imagine if every person did that. I'm like, you know how many times I'd have to leave the United States if my
Facts.
president didn't
Facts.
win? Like I've honestly, like, I've been voting since freaking McCain, right? And
Really?
so,
Well, dude, honestly,
and
you don't see a lot of vet. I feel like that's the deficit that you see. A lot of vets don't vote. I mean, because you see the hypocrisy that is politics, and if you have any kind of brain, it kind of overwhelms you because it's just drama on both sides. They're both working for the same thing, and it's like, dude, I'm not buying what you're selling. And if you can really, I don't know, dude. I didn't vote for probably like 4 years, and this come around, I voted just because. I
yeah,
mean, listen, when it comes to what's going on in the left right now, dude, like the big thing for me was the transsexual thing, dude. It threw me off. I have a lot of friends that have kids. So I live in a small town in Massachusetts, and a kind of like a little bar, kind of like a craft beer place opened up like down the street from us, and it's a great little bar, low key, has a food truck outside, cool little thing. But they put a big sign out like the third week they were operating for a transsexual story time. And it's like, where is that
like,
coming from? Like, why do you want to even like introduce that to kids at that age? Like, it's so weird. Like, why is that even in the agenda? It really throws me off.
oh, like I told my friend, he's like, because we sat in the same living room during
Oh, that's tough.
while the
That's
hey
tough.
man, it was, and I was high as hell. So like
So I know you were fucking
I
tripping, dude.
and I did so because I wanted to be like, wow, I'm going to be really quiet here, and I don't want to say a lot of things.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
wife
yeah.
did give me kudos and said I was really good, and so she
That
was
was really behaved.
plotting my restraint. But we watched this turn really quick in the direction that they didn't
Yeah.
expect it to go. And you know
Yep.
what I saw that a lot of people on our particular stance don't see is they didn't expect it,
Yeah, no.
right? It was
They
it
they
was a
totally bought
shock.
into it. Yeah, you're right.
It was just such, and for me, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, bro, I bet you money on this was gonna happen. Like, I bet you money, like, and I knew it was gonna happen. I just didn't know it was gonna happen like it did. But I told him like, listen, when you understand something, like, because parents, right?
Yep.
I sit there and I'm like, they were trying to get transgender things taught to kids in school. I'm like, what in the hell did you think was gonna
Right?
happen?
Like, right? Like, come on, dude.
And so that happened. The thing at the end of the day, dude, I'm happy things went the way they did because, there's a lot. I don't believe in right or wrong or who's right, who wrong.
Same here.
My
Same here.
biggest
I
thing,
agree
there's
with
a
you.
lot of things on both sides that I don't support.
Yep.
However, I do believe that we need this direction for a
I
while,
agree.
right? Because we need to get rid of these 13 genders and we need
I agree.
to really bring back what it means to be an American. And I know that people want to take that "Make America Great Again." They want to slew it in some racist direction. It's not that at all,
I
right?
agree.
It's
I
this
agree.
mentality about not being exploited by our international partners, right? It's about taking like
I
we could
love how
look at.
Trump has control of that, bro. I love how he just walks right in there and he
Did
sees
you
how they're.
see what he said to
Yes,
Trudeau,
yes,
dude?
yes, I did. Just
My
throwing it out
man.
there, dude. I love his confidence, dude. It really makes America look the way that I want us to look, dude. And international relations is so important, and people don't really realize that. And the way America looks to even the UN, dude. Like, I mean, is significant, dude, and it matters. It matters. It affects trends, and I mean, you know that just from what you do, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see that
You
from the day
know,
to day.
what I told my friend, and I said, listen, every day on the market we take money from people, right?
True.
When I make money, it's because someone lost money. It's a dog eat dog world. The
Yeah.
United States did not get where it's today. It didn't get the freedoms it has that they enjoy. As to be honest with you, as gay couples, right, who had the freedom to marry, like all that happened because listen, I'm be on the limb here because I am kind of crazy, right? Like it's because we took land from people. It's because when people said no,
If you're
we
gonna
said,
be real, dude.
be real. Like we took land from people. Like we beat you in war the way things need to happen because flamethrowers are cool and they're functional, right? We went through all these things and we didn't do it by asking people, oh, hey, do you mind if we like listen,
Can we
listen, you
just
mind if we
scoot
have
in here?
freedoms,
Yeah.
right? You mind if we just like, if you don't mind, we're just gonna have some freedoms and we hope that you're nice about it. No, we killed people and we broke their
Facts.
shit,
Facts.
right? And that's what
It's
makes
true.
America who it is. And if we don't do that, dude, and I tell this people all the time, like the only reason people love the United States is because they fear us. And the day that they don't fear
It's
us,
so true.
right, is the day that even our allies are going to sit there and be like, let's take him from what we can while we
Exactly.
can.
Exactly. And
And
that's
so
what
we
you
can't,
saw from the
and
transition
that's
of power
what, to
from
me,
Biden to Trump, dude. You're right. Yeah. It's true. It's
yeah.
true. No
And
one
so
really.
that's why I support this. We need to go back to actually, walk. We had this big stick. We had this amazing military, right? And we don't want to use it and if we don't have to, and no one wants to see, especially people in our experience, we don't want to see this generation and kids die, right?
Facts.
And we don't
Facts.
want that to happen. But the truth be told, like if it has to happen, it's because someone's getting hit with that big stick because they didn't do what they need to do, or they're trying to take us for something that we're not willing to give. And that's just American. There's kids have been fighting for however you want to say it. Dan Daly, wrote that book
Talk
regarding
about it.
capitalism, right? And talk about how we fought for, sugar cane and the Cubans, the oil. Sure, okay, whatever, but also like it plays into a bigger picture, right? Whether it's the military triangle or whether it's freedom as we define it, it creates the world that we have today, and that's
Dude,
what we have the big stick for.
you're showing me your brain right now, dude. I see that you see what's really going on, and that really that changes your perspective on a lot of things, dude. So, I mean, you see politics and you see how, I mean, let's talk about Ukraine real quick, dude. Like, I mean, this is a proxy war. This is literally
Yeah.
us getting involved with another country, and I mean, is it not some kind of slight towards Russia? I mean, that's literally what we're doing, dude. It's almost like they're poking Putin, and I really don't agree with that, man. I really don't. I mean, why would you want to put us in a position where we actually could get into World War III? That scares me. Who would want
Yeah.
that?
I mean, the fact that just think about the things that's happened since post-election, right? Being able to use long-range missiles,
That's exactly
right?
what I'm talking about.
Like
Why is that
they
even being talked about, dude?
Because when now you need to screw the guy coming in because
So true.
if he's drowned by all the problems that war creates, can he really fix the economy? Can he really fix the
Is
border?
that what's going
Right?
on
Can
right now,
he
dude? They're just tearing it up so he can't. That's so vicious, dude.
I think they're trying to put him in a position to not
To fail.
succeed.
Yeah,
And ultimately when it comes to like talking about Ukraine, like, the worst thing that Russia's ever done was their special military project because everything before February 2022, we all thought that Russia was a formidable war,
absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
there was military exercises that I was involved with and training that I was involved with where we're doing peer-to-peer training, right? And they sit there and they brief us on some, oh, hey, by the way, this is what Russia's capabilities are. The fuck? No, no, they're not. They have a couple functional things that they parade through the middle of their
I think that's
cities.
really what it showed, dude. It showed that there's a leaky ship over there. Like we all thought that, listen, Russia was going to just trampede over Ukraine, and it didn't happen, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
call it what it is,
I
dude.
was
Go ahead.
I was one of those people. I was one of those people. I was like, well, this is like, that meme where there's that one white girl and there's those 10 guys standing over
Yes,
top
I
of her.
do. Yeah, I do.
Like, I remember posting that and I'm like, this is Ukraine. Like
What?
this, they're about to,
That's
they're
so.
about to get
I thought the
ran
same
through.
way. I thought, and let's be real, dude. I mean, Russia's a
Yeah.
massive power, dude. And I mean,
Yeah.
I thought that they were like holding off for a certain degree, and then when it went like how long it did, it's like, what's really happening here, dude?
They're struggling. I mean, but look how great this is working out for us. And I tell this to my wife all the time because man, my wife's more into current events than I am.
Really?
I just work every day, right?
Bring that money in.
And she'd be like, "Do you see what's happening in Korea?" And I'm like, no, I'm too busy trying to make money so we can eat."
Did you?
But
Hey, slow down, dude. Did you see? Honestly, did you see that? Because that confused the shit out of me. All of a sudden, I saw martial law, and then they were saying it wasn't
yeah.
martial law, and then I saw the special forces being dropped on the Parliament building, and what's even happening over there? Is it a
So
struggle?
from So,
Go
from
ahead.
my understanding, the president, the head man in charge over there in South Korea, decided to invoke martial law to stop what he believes is an American control and
Really?
exploitation of South Korea. And I could be wrong. This is basically what I've read off of it.
Okay.
And we all know that the reason we're in South Korea is because at one point in time, they were getting their ass kicked in the 50s because there was a bunch of Russian, Chinese influence pushing North Korea down to
Yep.
be taken over by communism. So we have a huge presence there now because one, the war is technically over. It's a ceasefire. And, you have Russia, you have China that's right there. Same reason we're in Japan, the Philippines, right? We're building a wall for in the event that those people decide to, find out again. And so,
Well,
on the other,
this is a serious thing, dude. I mean, from what it seems like the CIA gets involved in the political system, and they create a what is it a Republic wing, if you will, a USA controlled wing that pretty much tells them what to do
yeah,
politically
I
wise.
mean, you want to, I talk about like coercion and everything that's happening internationally. And I'll tell you, I'm exposed to Mexico news that doesn't really get pushed into the
Has no
States,
bias in the
right?
States. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so the consensus happening in Mexico right now is that CIA, right? We'll call them, not my words, someone else's words. CIA is supporting the infiltration and supplying the infiltration of foreign cartels into Mexico
Really.
to create an instability
A
and uptick
chaos.
in violence
Chaos.
so that the US can rationalize an involvement to neutralize the card. Because I'll be honest with you, like, for anyone out there who hasn't lived in Mexico, I have cartel friends, right? I know people that are on the street level and then jefes, right?
Of course.
And all these guys, they're respectable people. Like they will, right? They will cut your head off in the middle of the street in broad daylight because you go the wrong direction. However, right, what's happening now is these foreign cartels, and no one, and this is where the CIA comes in, and quote, no one knows how they're getting guns, how they're getting money, how they're taking over entire states in Mexico. We're talking,
So we were talking cartels, dude. I mean, you have
yeah.
it's that's actually really cool, dude. I don't think you ever hear it from the cartel side. You know what I mean? You always hear cartel so dangerous and they're pumping drugs into the states. But I mean, if you really do know like people in the cartel, like what's their perspective on everything, dude? I mean, what's the type of person that is in the cartel? Is it similar
Well,
to like the Italian mafia?
Uh, yeah, and it's also similar to the Taliban. It's also
Really?
similar to your LA street gang. So it has a mixture of everything. So when you talk about the mafia, right, you talk about the respect that it has for the community. So
Yes.
yes, right, it they treat people in the community with respect,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
And so disrespect is huge in Mexico. You don't go disrespecting anybody because you don't know who they are. But secondly, they walk through life with an element of respect. In terms of the Taliban, the approach they have there, they are supporting otherwise unsupported communities, parts of the country that the government's neglecting, and that gives them favoritism, right? And so we're talking about, we'll use Afghanistan for a crazy example, right? And so Afghanistan at large wasn't really caring for its populace, right? And so it
Facts.
allowed these organizations in all their different sects and pieces to move into different regions and act as an illegitimate government, right? Providing them things like protection, right?
Yep.
And jobs. And so the cartel does that, right? And so there are areas where Mexico is too busy squandering all its money and shaving off the top, where the cartel comes in and provides that support.
That
And then
makes
you have your LA street gangs. They're supplying everything from drugs to street level extortion, to fund their operations, to produce, and really to create a level of anonymity and protection so the local population doesn't rat them out,
gotcha.
right? And so, but the biggest thing that we don't understand as Americans, and this is really important for, and I hope there's some politicians out there who are thinking that the CIA, if they are doing what I think they're doing, it won't work, is it's culture, right? We're
Yep. Okay.
talking, there are corridos, right? We're talking Mexican music that is rooted in this idea of telling cartel stories, right? It's like
Stop that. You're
it's
right.
like Irish war songs, right? And you're not going to take that from these people. And so if we think we're going to send soft down there and they're going to start cutting off heads and kicking indoors, sure, but it's not going to fix Mexico's problem.
You don't think
It's not
so?
going to. I mean, we're going to kill some people, and I mean,
Let's think this objectively. What is Mexico's problem, dude? Is it directly the cartel, or is it the political system just
corrupt.
being
It's corruption.
so
It's corruption.
batshit everywhere, dude? I mean, you could point at two things with that. But if we're gonna actually, if Soft is gonna go into Mexico and try to cut the head off the cartel, dude, I mean, there's not just one cartel. It's not going to be that easy. It's so exactly how you put it. It's so embedded in the local populace. I mean, you're really going to have it's
Mexico's worse for it. I've been in Mexico so I was in Sinaloa for one reason or the other, when they caught El Chapo's son, right? I was there as me and my family sat on their highways, and I'm talking as far as my guest house is across this property. Trucks were blowing up. I'm blowing up, right? And I had me, my 3 month old, and my wife in this car because the cartel was revolting against the capturing of their boss. And so what did
uh,
that do? Ensued violence. We catch this other guy who was like the true head of the Sinaloan cartel. And what happens to Sinaloa? Sinaloa divides into four different groups. We've seen it before in the Middle East time and time again. You kill a leader, four
yeah,
pop up because they're all fighting for power, right?
facts,
And
facts.
the thing is if we're going to really help Mexico, Mexico wants to help itself, right? It's going to need to stop the corruption, stealing money, right? The money doesn't make it as far down as it needs to. And the thing is Mexico's a rich nation, right? We're talking a population of over 100 million, one of the biggest economies in the world. It is, the step brother to the United States. 40% of the economy is based on us. And, honestly, all those things, the reason I value Mexico and I value the United States is why I wanted to go to, Harvard, John F. Kennedy, because I was like, you know what, as someone who is bilingual now and I represent all that is America and I appreciate all that is Latin America, I feel like I can act as a consulate general or an ambassador to these nations because I obviously have America's interests at heart at all times, but I also understand the value that they provide in the relationship. And I can see those perspectives that, frankly, some of the people in Senate and Congress, they can't see because all I see is fentanyl deaths,
Yeah, exactly.
or border crossing issues, which is a problem.
It is. But you're
Yeah.
right, dude. You're right. When you have someone in a position like that, they really need to be ingratiated into the problems that is happening in the community. If you don't understand from the bottom level, you're not going to be able to help widespread problems. And
Yeah.
exactly how you put it, if you can do that, dude, you definitely can be utilized in that position. That'd be cool to see you do that, you know?
That'd be cool. Let's see. Let's see. I'm shortlisted right now at Harvard, but if I get accepted, move. I can obviously live anywhere. I won't go to Spain. I'll miss out on that fun time. But
Have you been to Spain?
oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I've been twice. My
Crazy.
wife and I just
It's so
recently
nice.
spent a month there in July. We straight up abandoned our 2 year old with my mom and the nanny for a month, and we just had a good time. And
Live.
I like the nomad life. It's one thing
Same
that
here. Same here.
uh, I love it. What do we get? I get to work remote and I get to live wherever I want. And so, and my kids, I don't really have to grow up yet because they're not old enough to be in a school. They go to whatever school I send them to, right? My son's 2 years old, and we have another one coming down, so he's just old enough to go to like kindergarten, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, he doesn't.
They
When
don't have
I'll be,
circles of friends. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
drop an anchor at first grade.
That's funny. That when you live that life, dude, you do a lot of self-realization. You know what I mean? Like you get into I mean, we transitioned from the Marines to real life. There's a lot of I mean, there's a lot of emotions that go with that that you don't really talk about. It's not
Yeah,
really, it's kind of looked as weak to a certain degree
yeah,
in Marine Corps life or but these are things that we feel and that we go through. And when you live that kind of life, you value experiences. You
yeah.
value relationships with people because at the end of the day, that's all we have. Um,
Yeah, do you know, I think the biggest thing for me is I have a circle of friends that's about this big, right? And I'm lucky that I know some really cool people and I've got to serve with really amazing people. I got to build companies with really amazing people. But my friend circle of people who like are my people is very small. And I know that I've gone through life and I've pissed off a lot of people, right? I'd say most of the people I served with at large probably don't like me, but that's okay. And that's okay. Most of
but
them
dude,
hate,
listen, you're at least you're aware of that. Sometimes people like they can't be accountable and they can't even just like re I'm glad that you're even saying that because that just shows that you've looked at the pat like listen, you seem to me like the way I perceive you, you're a live wire. You're gonna be that person that like is in that situation that I mean you run into it and I have a lot of people like that, dude, and that's to a certain degree that's how I've gone through life. And you experience things a certain way and you tend to piss off people along your way.
well, the biggest issue that I've always had, and for anyone who doesn't like me who's listening to this, is I want you to understand it's not personal, right? I didn't do what ultimately made you upset towards me or not favor me as a Marine or as a person because I had any animosity towards you. It's because I chose me, right? Like I picked me, if people thought I was a piece of shit Marine, it's probably because I was focused on something else, right? And not that like, I was, fairly solid across the board, right? But at the same time, people, whether it's on active and the reserves, I had different focuses. When I was on active duty, I was never meant to be there, right? For as long as I was, and I was only there because I lat moved, and right. And then when I got into the reserves, like I thought we were just playing dress up. I didn't know we were going to be taking this serious, right?
What's the
I
reserves
didn't,
like?
ah, uh, there are some really cool people in the reserves, and there's some really great dudes in the reserves. Some guys who have done some amazing things, and people I look to as mentors. And then there's a bunch of people who take their Japanese deployment too seriously, right? And listen, and okay, cool. I would have loved to go to Japan with you guys, right? Like, okay, like I would have liked to go to all the schools that you had on your funding belt and then drink blood from snakes and all that thing. Great. I would have loved to do it. It would have been cool. However, I was too busy, making a lot of
Plans.
money,
Yeah.
right? And
I mean,
so like, and focusing on my
that's something
career.
that's not talked about, dude. Like, listen, the last 2, 3 years that you're in, you really got to be thinking about what's going to happen when you get out, dude. And
And
if
if
you
you
don't,
don't, you're screwed. Like
exactly.
if
And dude, do you not see that? I think that's the problem. That's the problem in a lot of Marines, dude, because they're just thinking about the Marine Corps. And then when they get out, it's like, oh shit, this is all gone. I'm never gonna deal with any like it's all gone. Like I should have just positioned and you're right, dude. That's
yeah,
something I don't think we talk about enough.
I used to be so caught up with the idea that some people, I'll tell you a story because there's probably some people out there who know this. So when I was in the reserves, I was the COO of a $30 million company, right? And so, right, I'm in my mid 20s and I'm leading operations for a $30 million company, right? And you fools wanted me to go play dress up on the weekends, all right? And so, cool beans. And so I had the first sergeant call me and he's like, "Yo, hey, you have to show up for training." And I said, "Hey, first sergeant, really can't, but right, I appreciate you." And then I had people calling me
I
like, "Yo, my
appreciate
man,
you.
you signed a contract." No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. But what you have to understand is I had a choice, right? I had a choice. And same people who told me, who talked shit about me afterwards, who said the Marine Corps, and I'll never forget what this guy said to me. Great Recondo. He said, "Listen, If you get hurt tomorrow or you retire tomorrow, the Marine Corps will forget you the next day. They'll forget you the next day.
So true. That's
And
so
I
true.
sat there and I asked myself, I'm set to make six figures off a couple merger and acquisitions over the next 6 months, or am I going to spend the next month at 29 Palms again, right? Doing ITX again, right? No,
Cody,
I'm not.
I think you just highlighted something that's like really significant, dude. At the end of the day, the Marine Corps forgets you, man. It just insists that you put your heart and soul into things, and then exactly, if you get hurt, if you're not able to be utilized, see you the fuck later. You're an afterthought. And what
It's
does that do
unfortunate.
to someone that understands that? I mean, the Marine Corps, it's almost like they just want zombies to not question things like that because these things are important. If you get
Yeah.
hurt and you're not able to be utilized and you just get kicked out, where does that it's so
But
true.
we'll glorify someone who will be a um, an
30 years.
all-in
Yeah, yeah,
reservist or
exactly.
something like that who is a security guard on the weekends,
Yeah.
right? But, oh, I'm sorry if you become a veteran who's ran multiple multi-million dollar companies, right? That's the dude we want to talk shit about. And I tell you right now, for everyone who's listening, I donate more to military charities per year than I made while I was a lance corporal on active duty, right? And so I say that because I may have been in many people's eyes a horrible Marine, but I'm a way better veteran, right? And I talk so much amazing things about the Marine Corps. I think the Marine Corps is the reason we're free in so many ways. But what's really important is that I at one point in time I wanted to be you guys. Like I wanted to be the guy who was glorified in the teams. Like I wanted to be the guy who was the JTAC, the sniper, the Sark. Like I wanted to be that so bad. Yeah, but it's okay. But yet, at the end of the day, you are who you are. I respect you for it. I admire you for it. And you,
Hold on. You're talking about some significant things. Now, are you trying to articulate the fact that like you went all in and you didn't get to like pump out? You didn't get to go to like these situations?
no, it was, I went all in and I didn't get what I want from it. And I think that's what sucked, and I will say that, you know, some of us get to, I did a lot of great things in the Marine Corps and I appreciate it for
Cody, hold
everything
on.
it
Just for the
was.
people that don't understand, what does being all in mean? What?
Like, you could have sent me anywhere, done anything you wanted for me the entire 12 years you had me, and I would have been all in for it. And I did, and I was like Johnny on the spot, like, let's do this. But there's a point in time where I realized being all in, and in spite of getting everything you want, right? Because the schools were cool, right? You know, being the guy that everyone like, wow, that dude's a badass is cool, right? But also I realized you just said it, 2 years getting out, you're 2 years from getting out and you don't start thinking about it. There's a point in time where you can keep flying towards the sun
You're right.
and
You're
then get out the guy
flying
you
towards
can
the
get
sun.
right. You can be Icarus, right? You can
So
get
true.
out
True.
and you can fly so
Uh,
close to the sun
yeah.
and be I'll give you an example. And I love my brother so much. My brother was that guy, right? Who ran his entire career, Marine Corps, whenever they needed him to go anywhere, do anything,
Say less. I'm
and
there.
we did it together. And what the difference is at some point I realized my investment wasn't going to pay off, and then I went a different direction
You have
because
that
I
mindset.
realized at
Yeah.
some point in time I wasn't going to do this the rest of my life,
Damn,
right?
you
But
really have
my
a
brother,
business minded head, dude. Like you really got to cut ties and just and you're right, you have to go towards the next option. And not only
yeah.
the Marine Corps doesn't promote that, dude. It
But
promotes
what's
you're right.
what's to get my brother? I tell this to my brother one day, and I told him, like, listen, I want you to understand something. You're more than a citation, right? You're
That's
more
big.
than a citation because, and I told him this, and it was really important because we all get out and we all wanted this. Like, I was at Apple, and I'm like, does this motherfucker know who I am? Like, do you know
Excuse
who
me.
what I've, boy, do you know? I'll snap you in half. No, but you get out, and my brother never understood is once you get out, um, no one's going to read his Bronze Star
Who
citation.
cares?
They're
Yeah.
not going to know
Yeah.
what he did, right? They're not going to know the sacrifice he made. They're just going to know one simple thing, that he was a veteran and the world moves on. and I realized that was in, and I love what the Marine Corps gave me, and I love the sacrifices and the hardship that crashed me into things like alcoholism, that
Oof.
crashed me into
Not
things
talked
like
about enough.
depression,
Not talked about
right?
enough.
But then I realized in all those things that like you have, like you said, you have to cut your ties at some point and start thinking towards the future. And I did so in a way that could have been done better, right? I'm again human, right? I'm
Self-realization.
sorry,
You make
right? I'm,
mistakes. Yeah. Yeah.
I had people call me and say, hey, you have to show up, right? Because you have a contract. And I said, I told them time and time again, like, hey, I'm not going to show up. Hey, I'm not going to show up
Man.
because,
Oh God, ugly.
I had the CEO telling me like, my man, like, if you're not here, are you really the CEO for
Oh,
me? And
it
like,
was like that.
this is
Damn.
and he's a veteran, right? And but
Damn.
it was a private business world, right? Everyone's like, oh, they can't do that because you're a veteran. That's discrimination. Shut up. They can, right?
Damn. You got
Like,
told pick a side.
the thing is, and he said, like, listen, you're not going to get what you need from this anyways. He's like, this is where you're going to make your money. And so, you know, I think that I could have gone about things differently in my Marine Corps career, but ultimately I realized I at some point in time I got lost with being the cool guy, right? And
That
then I
happens. That
realized
happens.
why I joined in the first place, which was to get my education, to set myself up for life. And I got more from the Marine Corps than I deserve. And
Well,
I got
something you
friend.
just said, exactly what you just said right there, dude. It matters who you hang out with in the Marine Corps. The circles that you stay in, it almost transitions you into your next thing. Because if you get into a circle like of that, that shitbag, that guy that's been in 4 or 5 years, and he's on the fat team for PT, and he just hasn't done a PFT or a CFT. He's not a Marine. He doesn't have that
Right.
motivation. He's thinking about, the next thing. I mean, if you get into a circle of that when you first get in, it throws you off because you're all motivated when you come out of like all your schools, all your boot camp and your job school. You're thinking about being successful. And then right when you get into the fleet, you just get into that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I always tell people, so I've done a lot of contracting and stuff since I've gotten out, even as recently as this year, right? I've done more ridiculous, savage things as a civilian, right, in Latin America than most people I know in the Marine Corps, right? And so I want to my point to everybody out there who thinks that oh, like we are defined, like our peak craziness and how cool we can be or how crazy we can be is defined
So
that
true.
I never thought I get to do the things I've done as a civilian, and I'm definitely
Dude, that
far
really is how you're
scarier.
defined in the Marine Corps. As a Marine,
Yeah.
you're defined about the craziest situation you've been in and how you reacted, how you held it down. That's so true. You're dropping gems over here, and I
Well,
gotta articulate
dude,
it.
I remember one time last, oh, say a time frame where I was sitting there doing some reconnaissance in a Latin American city, and I sat there. I'm like, yo, bro, I never thought I'd be doing this. This is the coolest thing in the world. You're like, oh shit. Like,
Yep.
all right, let's bag and tag this fool. Let's go back and need some Starbucks, right? And like you're sitting there and you're like, wow, and the funny part is you're like 5 years earlier, I'm making a decision to get out of the reserves because I thought I was going to go on this business path. And then it's this business path that led me into
Weird.
what I was in. And so I was like, oh, so the government does have a use for me in some way. Like even you can, and I think that's what's really cool. Talk about people like Matt and other operators out there that still are able to use where their positions are as CEOs and entrepreneurs. It still has a purpose
Yep.
in America's plan. And
Isn't that isn't that
look,
doesn't that make you feel good, dude, that you can still be that guy and be successful in the civilian world?
it's cool.
Yeah.
Ultimately, man, I'm human. Like, there's so many people out there that, I don't hate people. Like, there's a lot of people I maybe, don't favor, right? But, I can have a flawed conversation and care about, like,
Not
if
one to
I've
hold those
served,
long grudges. I'm the same
yeah,
way, dude. I'm the same way.
I don't know, but I'll have people talk shit about me all day, and that's okay. Like, I'm okay. you should know that I'm okay, guys,
I'm good
and you
over
may
here.
not be okay, but and words don't hurt me,
Same,
right?
same.
I realize that, and I know where I sit in this world, and I know that I have gotten to serve. I mean, in no way, shape, or fashion do I consider myself a hero in any regards, but I've served with some. Like I know some really amazing people, and through them, I appreciate the breadth of what the military had to offer everybody, right? And I got mine, and that's what matters because when I retire at 40 years old and never work again in my life because I don't want to, because I want to go off into politics or something for fun, it's because I chose me. And, and I got some ex-wives out there. Much love to you guys. If you're watching this, right, both of you, like I want you guys to know that like you got me where I am today.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you, right? Like I appreciate you, right? One helped me get through college and realize my potential. The other one taught me how to dress, right? Hey, like but one thing that I say that my wife repeats to me time and time again is that everything we've done has made us who we are today. And who I am today may not be that arrogant guy in the Marine Corps or that young entrepreneur. It's just, I'm a dude with a 2-year old kid who wants to raise a good man. Like that's all I am nowadays. And that's all I want to be. I've had some people recently in my life that have told me to pick things like stability and security in my future and not get involved in, supporting the fight for freedom anymore. And so as hard as it is to hang up those thrilling and exciting things
Yeah,
that we do
yeah.
in the dark, I don't do it anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore because I'm just going to trade, run companies and be a dad because I'm only 34 and I'm trying not to have someone else raise my kid.
You're talking, so I mean, just so everyone that's listening, you're talking about contracting, dude. Contracting is a big thing when you get out of the Marine Corps because it's just so in your face and it's so doable. You see these guys that are contracting, a lot even aren't veterans, dude, and what they're doing is our bread and butter. It's so easy for us. I mean, I jumped on a couple of different gigs contracting when I got out, dude, and just seeing what it is, it's very attractive and it's very hard not to do it. Like, but you're right, dude. It puts you in a position where you're not home, you're not with your family.
Yeah. Dude, the
It's
money you can get paid
That's what I
to
mean.
do the things you get paid to
Too
do
easy.
is crazy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And for those, there's like contracting out there, like protective details, and there's embassy details, all this out there. And then there's just stuff that the government needs to get done
Yep.
that they themselves don't want to do, and they
Yep.
need someone to do
They
them.
outsource. Yep.
And it's it's like there's a website, I don't want to go on liberty of saying, but there's like a blacklist out there of jobs that need to be done for the military or DoD, and they exist
And
out
people
there for the
shit on them.
purposes they need.
Yep.
They need someone to be like, are you willing to risk it
Got
all
it.
for some money, right? And you're like, dude, that sounds fun and it pays
Yes.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do that. And it's good. It's good while it lasts. It's fun while it lasts, but you know they don't always go the way you want them
No, they
to
don't. They don't.
sometimes,
It's very
and
hard to control it sometimes. You're right. You're
you
right.
can't. And that's what one of my buddies said. He told me recently. He's like, my man. Like I get what you want and I get what you're chasing, right? I feel like we're always chasing that excitement, and
Facts.
especially, if you're always the person who doesn't think the glass is full, right? It's never really full, so you're always chasing it. And then I realized that some glasses just don't need to be filled,
Yeah,
and
you're
so
right.
I'm just
So
gonna
I
stick
got
to what I
involved.
do.
I got involved with like the celeb stuff, dude, and I didn't realize how hard it was to control because they have their teams. They have like just big groups of people that influence them, and you're not always with them, and you can't control where they go, how they move, which is so important. And if you can't control that, dude, you're right. It spins out of control, and it's very difficult to. And for us, we always need to have our hands on it. We always need to be able to influence how we move, how we're going to go somewhere, where we're going to go, the way that we move there. And if we don't, you're right, it throws it off. It's very difficult
Yeah.
to control it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Nick, the one thing that I gather from all of our conversations, we've had a really honest and clear dialogue this entire time is that life's full of choices, right? And those choices, they ultimately, every turn leads you in a direction.
I
and it's
know.
going to lead you to another crossroad, to another crossroad, to another crossroad.
You always have that minute to think. Like, should I
Yeah,
do this? Is this
yeah.
just fast money? Is all money good money? Should I? And we all. You're right.
Man, I was like just this past week, I was offered a $50,000 a month call center contract, right? And everyone should know, we operate at about like anywhere a good day, 40% margin, bad day, 30% margin, depending on the
Damn.
time of year. And so really great money. And so I knew something was up, and I knew it was a scam call center.
Always, right?
And so
It's always.
like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
a gut feeling, right? You just, you smell the BS. And but it was never, even through due diligence, verified that it was. But I didn't take the contract because you know what? Not good money, right?
That's hard.
Because
That's hard, dude,
it's
because it tickles your brown eye a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, ooh,
I had a scam call center contract before, and we didn't know it was. To be honest with you, it didn't.
that must happen
Truth
a
be
lot.
told, it was referred to me by a military guy, right? And the COO was a Marine, so like
Damn.
basic.
So
I
you want to
instantly,
trust it. You want to trust
yeah,
it. Yeah.
you give them that extension, that courtesy, that professional courtesy. And turns out we were making a lot of money, but apparently we were ripping a lot of people off. And I didn't know it until we started getting feedback from the people that were getting fired, right?
Gotcha.
From this call center on
Gotcha.
our side. We're like, yeah, these aren't adding up. What's going on here? And it's just not good money. And at the end of the day, like, you know, you have what I didn't want was the FBI knocking on my door,
Facts,
right?
facts,
Right.
facts.
I just don't want I really just, I have a podcast, right? And I
Oh
do
yeah,
it because,
talk about
you
plug your
know,
podcast real quick, dude.
and I say I have a podcast. I mention that because I don't do it to get fame. I don't want to be known. Like, just make me the gray man. We all talk about the gray man in the Marine Corps, right? In the military, make me the gray man. And the only reason I have a podcast called The Faces, Entrepreneurs Are People, is because the election made me think about, like, man, I got so many opinions, and I kept getting canceled and by the Facebook communities, right? Because I have restaurants throughout Mexico,
Yeah.
and so the community was like, don't eat at this cafe, right? Even though their food's delicious and their cafe is the best in there, and their prices are reasonable, this guy is going to vote for Trump, right? And it's like they say all you want in the world, but 5-star reviews. But the worst part is like, I kept getting canceled. I'm like, man, like, I run these businesses, but I have opinions, and I have these two faces I wear. So I started the podcast, and I just go through and I talk to a bunch of people who are my clients, people who are in my client category, for the purpose to, it's research for me. Like, the more people who I talk to are financial advisors, lawyers, and accountants, the better I understand them, the better I can serve them through my company. So
it's a good networking tool, dude, as well.
yeah,
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 yeah.
I love it, and that's what we do. I don't think anybody who I'm going to be targeting on my sales list, but everyone who's going to be on my podcast is on our target list for sales, right? And so, what's better than to get on a call with someone who
Exactly.
you want to do
Yeah,
business
yeah,
with
yeah.
one day, and then have them say, "Tell me about yourself,"
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yep.
Right? Just like, let them tell you about yourself,
That personal relationship is huge, dude.
and I swear, 3/4 of people I've talked to, coolest people, man, coolest people, and it's rewarding. And it's not like I don't want any sort of like notice or fame from it all, but the biggest thing that we want in life is just to find our success, and that's what I'm cruising for, right? And we make mistakes along the way, right? And I've given away fortunes and divorces already, right? And that's good for you. Thank you, guys. You're welcome.
You're stupid.
But like the podcast and everything, I've talked about religious on my podcast, Trump on my podcast. I
Religion's a
talk
tough
about
one, dude.
race.
Religion's a tough one.
Yeah, and the worst part is I'm not religious, so this guy
Same here.
was, and I'm like, how do I navigate
Ooh,
this?
awkward.
But dude, we're people. We're just people, and
That's all
and
it
I
is.
think that people who sit around all day and say, "Oh, Nick, fuck that guy," right? His deployment was shit. He didn't get shot at. Blah blah blah.
Shut up. Shut
He,
up.
he was on he was on Bahrain, or that guy was on a MU. It wasn't even early deployment, or he was on a UDP, or he went on Mexmar. That's not even real deployment. Like, or oh, look at this boot over here, didn't do anything right. Didn't get his good cookie. Or all these people like who sit around and do that. Like, listen, people, I promise you, there's so much more to life.
Facts.
There's so much more to
Very
it,
true.
and those who out there, like my brother, I love him to death. but he's someone who is just who the Marine Corps has casted away, and the VA gave his retirement and said, "Hey, listen, we're done with you," because this guy gave, the best part of his 20s to every deployment. And now this guy, sits around with, uncurable PTSD,
Shit.
and he someone who sits around all day thinking, "Oh, I used to stand on the shoulders of giants, and I'll never be that man again, and I'll never be that man again," and it repeats. And so, whether you're someone who didn't get to do enough, or someone who did too much, or someone who's just pissed at both those guys for no reason, just realize there's so much more to this
There really
world,
is. There really
right?
is.
And I'm a person who really has moved past my vet. I'm a veteran. I love being a veteran, and I'm all for it. But I've moved far past my military career,
Same here.
and
Same here. I
and
think that's
now,
mandatory. That's mandatory. You really got to do that, dude, to be successful. You're right.
correct, 100%.
Now, honestly, dude, Cody, leave us with something, dude. Speak to the veterans real quick. What do you think, as a community, what's something that we could, build towards or work on or try to focus on in the veteran community?
Yeah, you know, when I look at the veteran community from my perspective and the people that are involved in it, and this isn't coming from the wise, but it makes up the mass. We're not united,
Facts.
right?
Facts.
Um, we're too busy saying, who's better at what, and
So true.
who did this
You'll see
or
us in the
who did
comments hating
that.
on each other, but yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like, it's about gender in certain roles. It's about, how training has changed. It's about where our focus is on the mission and all this stuff. And then it's just like, the hierarchies that we create ourselves amongst the community. And I think at the end of the day, like, listen, one thing one guy told me as he sat there as someone who was a recipient of Bronze Star, and he said, "Listen, there's always someone who's done more than you."
Always, always.
Right. And so let that humble you. And I hope the community understands that, at the end of the day, if we stop beating the shit out of each other all the time, right?
Maybe we could accomplish it.
Maybe,
Yeah, exactly.
maybe we can help each other more. And I
Yeah.
think that's one thing that I'll do a shout out to Recon Sniper Foundation real quick. Everyone always thinks they see Recon Sniper Foundation like these guys help everybody, right? This isn't a good old boys club, right? Where they're just, if you're not recon, if you're not a sniper, they're not helping you. They help the veteran community. And I think they're a representation of what we should be as veterans, because they don't care what your MOS was, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
They want to see veterans succeed in their transition. That's why
Period.
they have athletic teams, they have shooting teams, they have events, because they're trying to help you create the community outside of the
And
community you're exiting.
yep.
And so, if the guys who started Recon Sniper Foundation, right? These guys, legends of Sangin and Helmar Province, like, these guys are badasses. If they can sit there and reach across the aisle to their Air Force counterparts who flew drones or processed paperwork, right?
Facts.
Just remember, you're not as cool as them. We're not as cool as them.
Facts.
Let's stick together. Like, let's stick together.
Period.
Right.
Period. I agree.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Well, before we get out of here, dude, talk about you talked about your podcast. Talk about, plug your stuff real quick so people can find you. Where can they find you?
Yeah, guys, name's Cody Hall. If you don't know, CEO and founder of Telehelping, a virtual assistant organization. We provide everything from marketing to, everyone needs clients. Everyone has a social media. In 2024, you have to be an influencer if you run a business, right?
Facts.
And
Facts.
so we provide virtual assistants at affordable costs. What's really cool as well, not only do I give the third month to all my veteran clients for free, right? I
Nice.
will, whether it's $1,500 a month or 2,000, I wipe it from my books for free for you, and then I also give you a discount. And so
Nice.
if you are a veteran, you're running a business, and you want to get virtual assistants, please reach out to me at info@telehelping.com. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, which is, LinkedIn/CODHAL. And you can also find me as Lord Cody. It's with
Man.
two Y's. On Instagram, just drop me a DM. And so, also as well, like, my phone's always on,
There
right?
you
I
go.
always have this phone on. not for anything. If you ever need someone, right? I've never been not available for someone in need in the veteran community. I'm lucky to know a lot of people who do provide support, and
Yep.
I can send you the right direction. So, like I said, we are our community, and so together we can fight and hopefully make America great again.
There you go. You said it perfectly. Cody, it's been a pleasure, brother. We'll talk soon.